Hi everyone, welcome back to Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. My name is Stacy. As promised in the burner tray cover video that I did last with the clothespins, I promised that I would make another one using Jenga blocks to make the basket. And so that is what I am here to do. But I'm also going to switch it up just a tad and make it a little bit different. Okay, you'll see the start of that one back there, and that's what I'm talking about. Okay, that's going to be the clothespin basket one, and this one is going to be the Jenga block one, and this one I'm going to make with my support in the middle off center. So I think this is going to be an interesting change up on things. So the first thing I need to do is flip my burner covers over. And again, these are burner covers from the Dollar Tree, and I have two wooden circles from Walmart. They are 7 inches. They cost 97 cents, 98 cents, something like that, right around $1. I took the plastic hanger off. It was just in with a staple, and now I'm just taking off the sticker. I have cleaned up my candlestick holders. I got this holder at the thrift store for $2. It's very heavy and very solid. It had a foam base on it, and I peeled that off and scraped this area clean with a razor blade, and I've cleaned off as much of the wax as I can get, making sure that my gluing surfaces are clean. So now what I'm going to do is take my circles, and I'm going to use E6000 and glue them onto the bottom of my trays. So I'm going to take my E6000 and I'm going to put a pretty generous amount all the way around. Now I like to assemble my trays before I paint them. Many people say that's too much work, but I find it holds together better if you paint it after, because the cleaner your surfaces are, the better the glues will stick. A lot of people will also tell you mix hot glue with that E6000. I do not like to do that, because if the hot glue and the E6000 mix while they're wet, they cancel each other out. And I used to swear by doing E6000 and the E6000 and the hot glue together. But I don't do that anymore because I've had too many pieces fall apart a month or two down the line, and as I was doing more research about how to attach things better, I found a lot of people complaining about that. So I just don't mix E6000 and hot glue anymore. Maybe once in a while on a hanger on the back of a pizza pan or something like that, but if I'm gonna push down and put weight on something and I have no control over whether or not the glues merge together, nope, I would rather just glue something down with E6000 and then wait overnight to be able to move on. Okay, it takes more time to do something with E6000 because of the drying time, but you'll get a better product. So I just twisted that a little bit to spread that glue around. I forgot to twist this one, so let's go ahead and do that. You just want to get a good thin layer over as much surface as possible. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stack these together and put some weight on this one. I'm not ready to glue this together yet. I want the bases to be good and sturdy before I glue them, since they'll be off center. This one I went ahead and glued together right away because it was in the center and it was balanced. This one's going to need a counterbalance, and I need to be able to mess with that a little bit. So that's where I'm going to stop on this one. I'm going to leave it a good 4 to 6 hours to dry before I try to mess with it anymore. Okay, so I let the circles dry for a couple hours, and I think I can go ahead and attach the base there. Here. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it, because I want it to be set back so I can put some bigger items in it. I just want it to look a little bit different. So what I'm going to do, let me see if I can lift this up so you can see it a little bit better. On this one, let's see if we can get it level here. I'm going to, now remember I centered the wooden circle, and I'm going to put the wooden circle right on the edge of the stand. In fact, I think I'm going to glue that on first. I'm going to glue, let me get this back. So I'm going to glue my candlestick to the right to the edge of the circle, of the wooden circle. Remember, I centered this, and now I'm going to offset this. So I'm going to go ahead and put on some E6000 pretty generously onto the base of my candlestick here. And then I'm going to flip this over and place that down. And I'm going to let that one sit for a little bit before I try to flip it over and attach to this side. Okay, I know this is a lot of steps and I know it's a lot of waiting, but with an off-centered deal like this, I think it's just a better idea. So I'm going to go ahead and just let this sit and dry for a couple hours, and then I'll flip it over, and then I'm going to let everything dry overnight, I think. I don't know. We'll see. But that's how I'm going to do it. Off-centered. I think it's going to be an interesting, different spin on the tiered tray. Alright, my trays are ready to attach together. This one is offset, so you can see that. And then this one, I'm just kind of trying to find its balance point because of the circle I have at the bottom. I don't want it to be exactly right on the edge of the bottom tray, just because I don't want it to tip. I just wanted to have a bigger surface here so that things could sit in front of it a little easier. Now I'm getting up and looking down from the top because I want it to look centered. I don't want it to be kind of wonky looking. So just kind of twist it a little bit till it looks right. And then take your pencil and draw a line. And then I'm going to draw a line on my, I just drew a little line right here. You can kind of see it. And a little line right there, so that I know where I need to match them up. Okay, and I've drawn the circle on here. It's very hard to see, but it's there. I'm going to flip it over, get my E6000, and I'm going to put a generous amount on the edge of the candlestick. I just want to make sure when I attach this down that the weight is balanced enough that my tray isn't going to tip. I want it to be off-centered so I have more space, but I also want it to be sturdy, and I want it to last and be able to hold up. And I'm going to do all this work to make this really cool tray. I want it to be solid. Okay, so I'm going to just wiggle it just a little bit, match up my line with my line, and then I'm going to push down, and I'm just going to let that set. I'm going to put my glue gun on top of, I'm making sure to put that weight on top of the candlestick so that it's pushing it down. And then Once it dries, we'll be able to paint this out and put our Jenga blocks around it and have another basket style two-tiered tray, but it'll be a little bit different than anything I've seen so far. Alright, so now I just need to let this dry for several hours before I mess with it again, and I'll come back when it's ready. Alright, so I assembled the tray and I let it dry overnight. I really wanted this to be solid before I did anything else with it because of the way that it's balanced. It's a little bit wobbly. I think it'll be okay. So there's kind of what it looks like. It's off center. I'm hoping that will make it a little bit easier to display some larger things in the front. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab some black chalk paint from Waverly. It's the color ink. I'm just going to go ahead and paint the inner trays. I'm just trying not to get any on all over the candlestick that's supporting the middle. And on this one I am going to be using Jenga blocks to make the basket. So I'm going to make sure that my edges are painted because nothing will clip on the inside. And I'm also going to make sure that the outside edge is painted because I think you're going to see a little bit of that too. Now I'm going to turn this over so that I can get the edges. I'm not going to worry about painting the whole bottom part of it. If I was going to sell it, yes, but just for me, no. Back over so that I can do the edges. I'm going ahead and doing the edges first on this top one because as I was painting the bottom of the top piece, I got a little bit of paint on the edges already, and I want to get that painted while it's still wet. So I've got this all painted up, and I'm going to set it aside to let it dry completely, and then it'll get a second coat, and then it'll get a coat of Mod Podge. For the next part of this craft, you're going to need some tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. Now, they've always been sold like this, either half natural and half painted, or all natural. But a while back, they came out with this giant one, and I was only ever able to find 2 of them, and I'm not able to find these tall ones anymore. So if you have one of these, great. You'll need just a little bit more than 1 box. If you have this one, you're going to need like 2.5 boxes. Okay, so I think what you're going to end up needing is about 90 of them. I think there's like 72 in here. Let's see. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So there's 24 times 3 is 72. 74, 76, 78, 82, 84, 88, 90. I'm going to go ahead and do 100 because I don't want to run out. I want to make sure I have plenty, and sometimes some aren't straight or whatever. So anyway, I just have one of these great baskets from the Dollar Tree, and I just dump all my open ones in here and ones that are partially glued together from previous projects and whatnot that I didn't use. They just go in here, and then when I need tumbling tower blocks, I can just grab some, unless I need a ton, like in this situation. Now I want, in this situation, to kind of stain them a dark brown. In my previous tray video, I left them natural. But in this one, I want to do a stain. So I've got an old ice cream bucket here, and I just dumped in, oh, almost 2 tablespoons or so of Waverly's Truffle. And then I just got some bottled water, and I'm going to stir it in. Not quite sure how much bottled water I need just yet. There we go. I just have a popsicle stick, and I'm going to stir it together. And I think I am going to add a little more paint. Probably another tablespoon or so. So what I want to be able to do is put my Jenga blocks into this mixture. Obviously not all at the same time. That'll be a little bit too much. Stir them around. Actually, if you had the lid, you could probably, let's try that. Let me go grab the lid from this thing. I will be right back. So I lost the footage on how I painted those blocks. What I did is I put all of them into the bucket with the paint mixture, put the lid on it, and shook the bucket until all of the blocks were coated with the paint mixture. Then I pulled them out and laid them onto a paper towel lined tray, one by one, in a single layer so that they could dry. And I blotted them a little bit with a paper towel and just let them dry overnight so they'd be ready to glue onto the trays. I've got all of my Jenga blocks over here, and they are dry. And so I took one and I put it up here and decided how I wanted to make it work. And I'm going to let the bottom of the Jenga block hit the table. And then I'll push it up against the pan. So I've marked on my Jenga block where it hits the pan. And the way I did that was just to draw with a pencil, lift it up, draw with a pencil underneath. That way I can just line up a whole bunch of blocks. And I'm going to do, I've got my glue gun heating. It's not quite hot yet, but it's getting there. So I can just line up a bunch of blocks, and I can go ahead and put, sorry, I was pulling that block out because it had the writing on it. E6000 takes a long time to dry, so I'm going to use E6000 on the bottom and hot glue on the top just to secure it. The hot glue will hold it in place while the E6000 takes its time to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and put E6000 along all of these blocks. And I just did a boo-boo. I forgot to hold this one. I went and put E6000 on there, but this is my pattern, my marker, so I don't want to put it on that one. So I've got it on there. And now I can put a bead of hot glue there and know that it should hit the edge of the pan where I want it to. Okay, I'm going to hold it for a second to give it a chance to dry. Let that hot glue hold that E6000 in place. Now it's hitting the table right here, and that's what I want it to do. So now I've got my next block. I'm only putting the hot glue on one block at a time, pushing it down, and I'm pushing it as close to the other one as I can, but making sure that it hits the table and that it's straight. So they're going to end up looking like this. Okay. This is going to be a little time consuming. It's not going to be as fast as the last tier tray I did with the clothespins. But I think putting the E6000 on all at once will be helpful and speed things up a little bit. If I had a third hand, that would make it go faster. I could do 2 blocks at a time. Okay, so you're going to end up with some space in between, and that's okay. Just make sure that each one is touching the table and that it's going straight up and down. Well, it's leaning out, but I meant, I think you know what I mean. Okay, so here's what we're looking like so far. Putting these on. If you hear any crackling sound, pull that block right back off, because if you hear a crackling sound, that means that your E6000 and your hot glue have mixed while they're wet. And if they mix when they're wet, they cancel each other out, and that block will eventually just fall off. It might hold for a little while, but in my experience, it will fall off. So crackling sound means that they're mixed, and you don't want that to happen. That's why I'm leaving the space in between. I'm trying to be very careful about where I'm putting it. I don't know if you can see, but I have my template block here, and I'm just kind of keeping it next to the next block so I know where the hot glue line needs to go, and then I can just push it in. This ends up kind of looking like a wine barrel or a whiskey barrel a little bit. I kind of like that rustic look. The upper tier is going to be a little bit harder because I'm not going to have the table to rest the pieces against to help keep them all the same direction. So it's going to be a little more of a challenge. This last one is going to be a challenge. I hope it fits in there. It's going to be tight. Come on, get in there. Ooh. That last one's really super tight. I'm going to turn this over for a second. Ooh. I am going to run a bead of hot glue around the edge. My E6000 is sandwiched in there between the burner cover and the wooden piece, so it shouldn't mix. And I'm just going to pump some glue in there as an extra support because it's just not wanting to stay right now. Okay. Let that harden up for a few minutes before you try to flip it back over. But look how nice that's looking. Now this is not perfect. There are some bigger gaps here, like this one and this one, but I think that adds to the rustic look of it. You could add like some metal stripping around it. You know, if you wanted like a metal banding around it to make it look more like a whiskey barrel, you could totally do that. Go ahead and flip it back over. So here's what we've got for the bottom. This one I'm just going to have to eyeball each one level with the next one because I don't have the, sorry, I'm off the cue here. I don't have the edge of the table to, or the tabletop to balance them on. So this one's going to take a little longer. When the E6000 sits for a few minutes before you apply it, it actually gets a little bit stickier. And so I think that's going to also help with being able to attach the top piece. Remember that you touch that bottom to the bottom of the tray so that it makes it an adhesion with the, or connection with that E6000. Okay. This is proving to be harder than I was thinking it was going to be. If you hold the nozzle of your glue gun on the glue that's down already, it'll heat it up enough that you can get a little flexibility back in it, and then it'll hold up a little better. I'm gonna have to do some prettying up on the inside here. It's looking pretty bad. Filling in this last space is going to be hard. It's like a fourth block isn't going to fit, but a third one, come on. I need like a half a block. Let's see what I can do about that. I'm going to figure out just how much I need. Then I'm going to score it with a razor blade multiple times. Then I score the ends, and then I try to score the other side and hope that it matches up. Don't cut your fingers doing this. But let's see if what I did get will work. Haha, it will. And cut crooked, it actually works okay. So, I'm going to put some E6000 on the bottom line and some hot glue on the middle line. Not going to worry about the fact that it's a different color. And I'm just going to tuck it in there. That doesn't look too shabby. Alright, like the bottom side, bottom edge, I'm going to do the same, running the glue around. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. Just going to put a bead of glue in here. To help keep those things in place. They are not even. I didn't have anything to push them up against to make them even, other than just judging it with the thickness with my finger and how it felt. This isn't too bad. I guess what you could do to make it easier is to set something up underneath the tray, turn it upside down, and then balance your things against the table, the top edge up against your table. So find a, I don't know, a butter container or a little stack of wood even that would be the right height. That could possibly work for you. Alright, that glue's pretty much set. Now I'm going to clean away as many of the glue strings as I can, but I'm really not happy with how the inside of this looks. It's just too messy. So I'm going to rub off as much of those glue strings as I can. Okay, I'm just going to disguise it by painting it black. So I've got my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink back out, and I'm just going to hit the edges of it just to kind of disguise the mess a little bit. And I'm going to use the Waverly Truffle, which is what I watered down, to stain these blocks. And we'll see about just painting a little bit of paint on that glue. Oh yeah, that's going to help a lot. It just kind of helps take the shine off of it and makes it blend in. You got to have a steady hand. You don't want your brown to mix with your black. Alright, there you have it. My two-tiered tray offset with tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. I like how there's more space in front of the support between the two, so I was able to get that big bunny on the bottom. And then lots of little things up in front. Sometimes I can't get my bigger things into the trays because that support is right in the middle and it just won't set right. So I like the way this came out for that purpose. What do you think of that? Is that something you find interesting, to go ahead and put that support piece into the back of the tray instead of in the middle? I like how it looks. It gives it a totally different look than the other tray that I made. So let me know what you're thinking about this in the comment section below. Most of, well, everything you see in there came from Hobby Lobby on their clearance last year, well after Easter, when they opened up after the pandemic eased up a little bit. Everything in there except for the jute wrapped bunny. I did that as a DIY on my channel last Easter, so you can thumb back and look for that if you're interested in it. I also did a moss covered bunny that's really big, but it was too big for this tray. I didn't have any Easter grass and I can't go out and get it, so I used some boxwood in here. I think that looks kind of nice. Let me know what you're thinking about this project in the comment section below, and if it's something that you might give a try to for yourself. It was kind of fun to make. It was a challenge to figure out just how to do it. So anyway, let me know what you're thinking. Alright, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. This has been Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.